What is up, guys? Welcome back to Bitcoin Audible. I am Guy Swan, the guy who has read more about Bitcoin than anybody else you know. We've got the Roundtable back in action. This was a really great episode. A lot happened in March. Some really cool stuff around mining. I mean, some of it sounds a lot like bad news, but I think most of it was just really cool. We found out that Steve was a super masochist, which is kind of exciting. Ignore the construction. We've actually got sheetrock going up downstairs, and I'm so freaking excited. This is music to my ears right now, if you can hear this. Tons of stuff to get into. We did get a little bit into BIP 110. Not a lot. Not a ton has changed in the last month to get into, but we did cover a couple of regulatory changes, some legal stuff, the 2-block reorg by Foundry, and the probability that it was on purpose, and some of the elements as to why we might see this actually naturally occur, because I think a lot of people jump the gun, but there is an element of, could it be an attack? And if it was an attack, how would it look? Is this similar or not? I actually learned a couple of things in the breakdown, and I thought Mechanic did a really good job being sensible about it, especially with them knowing all of the complications and frustrations of running a mining pool. Then we got into some of the differences between Stratum v2 and Datum. So a lot to get into. Really fun episode. One last note, though, is don't forget to check out, I've got a bunch of affiliate links and discount codes and stuff, which are a great way to support the show. They're right down in the show notes. All of these are services and products and things that I use and have for a really long time, and or people that I work with and trust. That is why I make them available, and they are also a great way to support the show that either get you a discount or are completely free for you. So thank you to everyone who uses them. Thank you to the Audionauts for supporting the show. I love you guys. And thanks for everybody checking out PairDrive and PairDrop and the tools that we're building. I know everything's still rough alpha versions, but it's fun to get a little bit of feedback and see what other people are doing with them. So thank you all for that. And without further ado, let's get into Guy's Roundtable number 19. This is in-house stress testing with the Roundtable. What's up, guys? Welcome back. We got Mechanic, Steve, myself, and my brother, Jeff. And it's been, what month is it? Or is it March? April? I don't even know. I'm so disconnected.
End of March.
The world is the end of March. Okay, good. It's been a long year all week. And we're at war with Iran, and they're about to get a nuke again. And Bitcoin's dumping, I think, today.
Yeah, it's been dumping.
Really. But a little bit, you know. Oh yeah, 65.6. And that is apparently stressing some miners. But before we get into that stuff specifically, let's start. Mechanic, what's up, my dude? How you been, man?
Yeah, good. Just looking at things change. How I think some of my assumptions around mining were kind of wrong, and I'll get into why. Because I think we're going to talk about miners a lot in this. So, but other than that, yeah, pretty good. Spring break. I've been spending a lot of time with my family. Been a bit quieter on Twitter, which has been a nice little break. But I think we're getting ready for the last leg of the BIP 110 war. We got 3 months left now until mandatory activation. So it's going to ramp up again, I think.
3. It's April, May, June, July.
June.
Isn't it 5?
I thought it was August.
Yeah, sorry, it's August. So what have we
Okay.
got? April, May, June, July. Yeah, 4 months. Correct.
Okay.
But I mean, July is when everyone basically has to have decided.
One way or the other. Yeah. Steve, how about you, man?
I'm good, man. I'm officially on Team Claude. I'm deep in there now. I know I'm a little late to the party, but
Nice.
I have some pro tips for people that are vibe coding software that connects to their Bitcoin node. It's a good idea to double check your requests for block data or other kinds of data. I found some errors. The standard way is to do like a simple, you just ask Claude to write a RPC function and Python or something to get data from a certain block number. Really good idea. Takes you like 2 minutes, is to be like, dump all of the UTXO amounts from this block into a CSV file, and then ask Claude independently to write a C++ program which gets the block data in a completely different way. So you can still use Bitcoin's CLI to get data. You can get RPC in 2 different ways, either through the JSON or through the raw binary. Or if you want to do it really independently, there's a way to read the block data that Bitcoin has written to disk without even going through your node at all. Just ask it to
that's nice.
figure out how to read BLK files. That takes a little bit longer, but doing this gave me a ton of more confidence to keep building my stuff, because if you're building a website or something, it doesn't really matter if you have little errors. If you get one transaction wrong in Bitcoin, it can be game over for a lot of different things. And it just takes 2 seconds. So have an independent method of dumping block data to text files. And then you don't have to compare the text files, right? Just ask Claude to compare the text files. Like literally takes 2 seconds. And it gives me a lot more confidence in building.
Nice.
Quick tip on that.
No, I've been frustrated with my OpenClaw lately, actually. It's still fantastic as like a general admin, but I'm more and more annoyed. Like, I love how it takes context when I'm trying to make broader design decisions, and I like it for brainstorming because it has a better idea of the reason for the project. It has the project manifest, and and it knows like its hierarchy in relation to a bunch of other things. So that part has been really useful, but I've actually found it really kind of annoying with code. And I kind of migrate back to Claude Code to actually work on stuff, because it won't just run off and do 30 things. And it will show me the block of code, and I can kind of scan through and I can catch it if it's doing something stupid. Because every once in a while it just turns retarded again, or like context gets too big and it just decides to do something that I've told it not to do like 10 times, and I've put it in a rule, but the context is so deep that it's lost sight of the rule. And so it just does the same stupid shit. And like, I will catch it with Claude Code because I'm reading every step and actually guiding it. So when I realize it's like, oh, well, we just need a hyperdrive manager and we're going to do this, this, and this, and this. And it's like, wait a second. We have drive manager. We have drive manager.js. Why are you building a whole new hyperdrive manager? Like, oh, you're absolutely right. We should just use the drive manager that we already have, and I should just add a new function. But Jarvis, my OpenClaw will literally just, like, it would just make a whole new hyperdrive manager, not even remember that the old one is there. And then I have to and it just produces a result. And then there's some other bug, and we find out it's because we have 2 functions doing the exact same damn thing that have 2 different names. And then I have to go back and I have to go to open Claude Code and be like, can you write me just a map of this whole fucking thing and all the functions and all this shit? And like, so I spend a ton of time correcting it. And it loses, God, it makes very, very bad common sense mistakes. Every once in a while too. Perfect for jotting down ideas, for my reminders, my calendar. It keeps up with all that stuff fantastically. But I find myself wanting to go back to Claude Code. And then when I'm changing something or doing something with Jarvis, I literally take that, pair drop it to Jarvis, and then be like, okay, I want you to modify this or something very, very specific. And I have to make sure I add in 2 sets of instructions of like, please don't do anything without proposing it first and letting me confirm, because remember, you're retarded and we need to take this step by step. And it's like, you are correct. I am retarded. We do need to take this slowly. But anyway, that's been my latest experience.
The context stuff with AI is really annoying. Part of what I've learned about prompting so far is get everything you need in the first request. and just get it right the first time. Because
Mhm.
if you miss a bit of context out of the initial request and you're like, oh no, wait, you did it this way, I need you to do it that way, then it just basically starts again. So, and I've been using Gemini because, it's about 60-70% of what Claude is. And
Mhm.
I've managed to make it do a couple of things good, but Claude is like dialed in for like producing code and stuff. Like the
Yeah.
annoying thing with Gemini I found is when it changes a bunch of code, and if you cleverly don't want to give whatever you're running AI, whatever command line you're running AI, and you don't want to give it access to your Git stuff. You don't want it to be able to push to your GitHub and stuff like that. So I always air gap it. So I generate a bunch of new code, then git diff, and I echo the diff into some patch, and then I apply the patch in another repo on another machine, and then push that to GitHub once I'm happy with it. And it keeps, like, Claude would do that flawlessly, where Gemini would keep creating all this dead white space and stuff. And it would be really annoying to debug it. Like, the code works when I run it, but when I try and actually apply the git diff, it's complaining about white space. And I'm like, that breaks my whole workflow. Because now you're making me want to cut a corner and give my Git credentials to the machine I have Claude and Gemini installed, and I don't want to do that. Like, I know that would be sloppy practice to do stuff like that. So yeah, Claude TLDR has been the best so far.
Yeah. I definitely agree with that. And I also just read a paper which I found really interesting, and I've been doing it. I can't say I know for certain that it's been producing better results, but it does kind of feel like it for the short span of time I've been testing it. But I read a paper talking about like how it deals with like semantic connections, like in the weighting system, and why having context before and after what your request is actually useful because of how it relates. Tokens relate forward and backward in like a prompt, and that something that increased um the value or the correctness, so to speak, of the output was literally after you write your whole prompt, after you write whatever you're trying to get it to do, copy it, and then paste it again right underneath it. So you have like your context and then your question, and then you have your context again and your question again. You just like literally just double tap every single thing. And supposedly it's like a huge boost in like how it actually works. Because again, it's one of those things that if repetition, it's less likely to lose something out of context. Um, but I've actually been doing that more recently. So I might actually try to do a little bit of side by side, maybe with like Claude Code and Jarvis or whatever, and see if I get one that's significantly better than the other. But oh my God, I've spent so much time vibe coding. Jesus Christ.
I've just been playing with my the LLM I've got running on my laptop, which
You got Quinn, right?
yeah, the Quinn 32 billion parameter model it's really, really good. But I don't know, I go back and forth between like I still haven't done, I don't feel like I've like done anything with it. Like I mean, I'm playing with it regularly, but like I don't feel like I've actually accomplished anything. I mean, I got it to like write me. I'm working on a handful of different things at the same time too. I'm kind of spread out all over the place. I got it to write me a letter, which I then had to edit, but it was decent. And then mostly I've been just fighting with government paperwork. I've talked to like 3 or 4 different lawyers in the last couple of days. I spent a whole day filling out forms and trying to figure out how to send off for my background check, which is way more complicated than it should be. Like and I swear, I don't know if I'm just retarded or something, but when you access,
It's probably that.
I mean, it's possible, but the website, the government website I have to go to, the Alphabet Soup website I have to go to is he says something like, if you continue beyond this point, you acknowledge that you are accessing a database that will now include your computer, and if you misuse this, it basically says they can take your computer if they don't like what you access or something. I'm like, what? Like, I am not
Why is this publicly available?
I am not granting you permission. Like, looking up your records of my own history, I'm not granting you permission to take my computer. Like, this is retarded. And then you have some sort of intermediaries you can hire to like do all the filing and stuff for you. But that only works if you're in the US. So I don't know. I
You
mean,
just buy a backup computer.
well, I mean, I have a cheap thing that I can, like access it from, but it just doesn't, it just makes me feel so icky. Like, I like the whole process is just awful. But maybe one day, I'll be done with, it's gonna be years. So it doesn't really matter.
Man,
It's gonna
eight
be,
or 9 years from now.
yeah.
But when you finally have a visa and then you can start on the citizenship process.
Yeah.
Yay. God, Jesus. And the war and everything. I don't know. Everything feels, there is actually like a bit of an interesting hope, even though it also means that like so much of the political world is a disaster. Like, it's so volatile. Like, I feel like we're gonna get like a heavy swing back to Democrats, and I literally think it's gonna ramp up on both sides. Like, I think we're gonna get like Democrats going full communists, Republicans going like full fascists.
They're
Like,
already
it literally just ramp like massive swings like both ways, and nothing is going to be reliable.
They are sowing the seeds for straight up communist socialist policies to be implemented.
Because they're doing a lot of energy, like I hear a talk of energy policing. Like, the whole Iran thing is a good pretext, like for a carbon quota. Like, you can only fly X amount per year, and like air travel gets increasingly disrupted and expensive and unreliable. So I mean, I see people getting worried about that.
So many of the posts and libertarian groups on Facebook and elsewhere, like, it's like, how come we're paying to bomb all these countries and we don't even have free healthcare? Like, it's just over and over and over. Like, it's like Israel has free healthcare that we're paying for. Like, they just keep like dropping this idea that if you're anti-war, you have to be pro free healthcare. Yeah. And so I think they're really pushing hard for a flip back the other way. And Cernovich suggested that because Trump is like basically the never Trumpers that he has aligned himself with, the neocons or whatever, that were previously all the people that did not want him elected, because he's aligned himself with them and thrown everybody else under the bus, that what's going to happen is they actually hate him, and that they are going to use the lack of popularity of the war that they wanted to impeach Trump. Like, it's gonna destroy him in the midterms, or destroy the Republicans in the midterms, and then they're gonna have a majority. They're gonna be able to impeach Trump, and so
the rhinos will go along with it.
Yeah, there's nobody's gonna be there to defend him, like, because he's thrown everybody under the bus. And so they're going to create, like, they're basically manufacturing the idea that they had that, like, oh, Trump's some sort of tyrant. They're like creating it by manipulating him into this like pro-war, like whatever, even though he ran completely against all of that. And I don't know, I mean, like, I don't know. He's a horrible piece of shit. So it doesn't really matter, but it's just, it feels like the whole thing is going to be a scam that benefits the very people that he was supposedly voted in to, get rid of. Like, it's going to make all of them more powerful. It's just gross.
Yeah.
Trump is awful,
Yeah.
man. I really
He
was.
is.
I was enjoying like a lot of what was going on politically, like from 2016 sort of onwards. It was fun watching the Democrats get humiliated and all that, and watching like the woke thing kind of break. But it was such a shallow thing to ever celebrate or be excited about when it comes to the ugly depth of how rotten and gross the American political establishment is. Just getting a new face for a while, like, hey, you know, we don't want women and men in women's bathrooms and like these trivialities. Like, it's, I can't believe for a minute I was even like remotely tolerant of it. Like, it's just awful. Like, I can't believe there are still Democrats and Republicans at this point. Like, everyone's been betrayed by both sides multiple times in this life. So how can you possibly think you're on one team and not the other?
It's literally every election now. Like, and I really think it's going to get like worse and worse, and people are just going to get pissed. And what sucks is that, like, I think we have such a cowed like population that are just like, well, eventually it will just sort itself out, and like I just need to do what I'm told. Is that like like very, very serious, like really horrible damage, I think, has to be done before anything actually gets done about it. I think the Epstein files are just a great example. Is everybody's just, there's so many people that are just furious and just like, what? How is nothing happening? How is nothing happening from this?
The CEO of Palantir previously said that he thought that the U.S. was going to be in a three-front war, like a world war, and going through a civil war at the same time. And so, so far, it looks like we could be headed that way. I don't know, but I think the civil war will be. I think they'll try to manufacture that from the left somehow. Like maybe they'll pretend to impeach Trump and then let him get away with everything so that they can excite the left enough to, like, with a No Kings protest 5.0 or whatever, go and, like, attack DC in an actual, like, what they claim January 6th was supposed to be. And
I think most of the left would literally jizz themselves if they felt that they could punish.
yeah,
Basically anyone and every, like if they got the vaccine passports, like punish the people who are killing grandmas,
yeah.
like situation back, which they may very well get back. That they will be over themselves in relief that they can like really do serious harm to people.
Well, the people that they're cowardly people that were chasing status in the first place. Like that was the whole, like, if you were submitting, the only thing they're good at is competing to be most obedient. And the act, like, since then,
Well, they think that's the metric of being good people.
Sure.
Are you doing what you're told?
but it's all born out of deep cowardice and self-loathing, and it's not, this is not no healthy person thinks that way. And so they're now all extremely stressed out. And I mean, everybody knows some like lefty friend or family member that is like completely lost their mind since COVID, right? Like, there's somebody, somebody that, like, you just can't talk to anymore. And
Yeah.
and so if you bring the situation back that allows them to feel redeemed, like, because right now they feel lost in the dark, like they can't give up. They invested so heavily. It's just like what happens with cults, right? It's like you put such an emotional and financial and whatever investment into a certain set of beliefs, and then they can't afford it. Like, crushes them to have to abandon that. And so if you can then bring back the space where
Give them an avenue for to release
redemption,
all of that stress.
then they're gonna go even harder the next time. So yeah, I don't know. It's a little, and I think it is like, it's literally like what's the Batman, which is the one where the Joker has all the crazies let out of the asylum and is using them to rob everybody and destroy things.
Yeah.
That's kind of where we're at.
I've been liking the memes, like all the jokes about the war. I loved that one that was like, "How 2 weeks away are we this time?" We're like, "Oh, that's a really bad kind of 2 weeks." We're way more
worst
2
kind of
weeks
2
than we were 5 years ago when we were 2 weeks. I mean, the meme quality is. I didn't think.
You saw the AI video
Yeah,
where it's like, "How 2 weeks away are we?
I'll be
We're
honest.
even
Like,
more 2 weeks away than we were 5 years ago." Oh my God.
I'm usually never into international news and never politics, but I'm a little bit more now because of the level of humor and memes. Like,
Yeah.
I'll admit, I'm a little into that. I do like to laugh.
There's one very interesting element here, is that the Iran war has reached a level of unpopularity that took Iraq war 8 years. And it was like 8 days
That's nice
for
to
the
see.
Iran war.
Yeah.
I don't know. I think Iraq was immediately past the threshold of unpopular to the maybe it's different in America.
I
But in
don't
Europe, there was a
know. I
million
don't-
of us in London that marched through saying we do not want this. And Tony Blair and George Bush were like, they were the two main figureheads of the whole thing.
I don't think that was the U.S.
Yeah.
That was not
They
the US.
prepared the U.S. much, much better for the Iraq war. There was a lot of propaganda.
Yeah, they did 9/11 to freaking
Yeah.
like,
Yeah.
let's be honest here.
Well, and
Yeah.
there's a lot of rumors that like, what's his name? Silverstein or whatever. He like bought some building and put it a terrorist insurance claim.
Yeah, like 2 weeks
clause on it
before.
or something.
Yeah.
And somebody said they thought it'd be the World Cup because there's like a bunch of World Cup games held in California this year. I don't know. For sure the Zionists have said multiple times like, oh, we need another 9/11 to show this generation, like, it's so gross. But dude, the meme lies, like Persians are hilarious.
Yeah.
Banifshay shows me like some of these memes, and it's like some of the funniest. There's like clips of like some skit where somebody does something bad to somebody else, and then he hits the guy next to him, and he's like, "What? Why are you hitting me?" And there's something about like Iran just striking all the people around them or whatever, which is just really funny. But the memes have been like amazing.
Great.
I'm all for it.
It is. It's we're in the lowest point. We're in a deep trough of political stability and like progress, but we are on a massive climb. We are in the meme bull market.
Yes,
for
we
sure.
are. Absolutely.
Did
Bull
you seen
market for
the
memes, man.
Iranian like Lego propaganda videos?
Yep. I've seen all of them.
They've been like AI propaganda videos.
Oh,
like
they're
crazy.
amazing, man.
Yeah.
And the ones that are officially released by Iran with those cartoons of like the US protecting like Epstein, not the kids on Epstein Island and stuff.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
I've seen that.
Oh, good.
They're like blowing up statues of Baal, like
Yeah.
in a bunch of videos. That's so great.
Wow.
Well, we can circle back to this. Let's talk about mining, because there's a bunch of news going on in mining recently, and a lot of it's attached to the price dump, but also some of it seems to be structural. Mara may be going under, which they're like they're the biggest miner, aren't they? Haven't they been?
Burn it down.
They're the biggest in the world for sure.
Burn it down.
Burn it down.
Because they apparently have not even posted profits. Like they've been burning through a Bitcoin stash. And then we just on the last roundtable, it was I can't remember the other company, but they went from like 980 Bitcoin in their treasury to zero. They had just burned through it in like a year or something, just trying to keep their operations afloat. And right now it's looking like Mara is having, they apparently had to sell an enormous amount of Bitcoin at an average price of $65,000. So they were clearly selling all the way down to 61 or 2, whatever it was that it dumped to for the short period. And they will probably have to keep dumping. Like I suspect there's still a lot of clearing to be done, which is why I've been thinking since we hit, we're gonna have one more leg down before we really turn it around. But Blockfills has just filed for bankruptcy, and they have millions that are owed to miners that they cannot pay. They've suspended customer withdrawals, and their liabilities range between $100 and $500 million in the
Hell
court
yes.
filing. Yeah.
This is so bullish.
Yeah.
They're gonna have to scramble to get that Bitcoin somehow. You can't keep dumping if you got nothing to dump. It's awesome.
Yeah. It really makes me think, there was a ton of this conversation and like talking about like the architecture and everything, like in the markets of mining. Is it like, oh, it's going to scale up and everything's just going to be huge and little miners or whatever will have no space? I really kind of think that the tiny miners will never be profitable just because of the nature of it from a infrastructure standpoint. But Bob Burnett uses the analogy of like the mouse or like the cat or something, I don't know, a small animal, mouse, the horse, and the elephant. Is you have like Mara's an elephant, but the sweet spot is the horse. It's the one that can move around very quickly, can adjust, and never gets their setup too large to basically be stuck. And what's funny is that the market, the dynamics may literally be that in the long run, the horse is the only thing that wins. And that would actually be phenomenal
Great.
for decentralization, like for the security of the network, is if it's basically made up of 80% horses. So the more of these large companies can kind of get their asses handed to them for, basically by market dynamics and not being able to survive drawdowns, I probably feel better for Bitcoin for good reason, like it could just get more and more secure, and all the people who are using it for heat reuse, as that increases over time, those people will get more viable as higher end machines get resold. Like Mara's going to get rid of hardware. I might buy a new miner. Discounts, when the supply hits. And if you're using it for heat, like you'll never really be priced out,
Yeah.
So I don't know. Super bullish.
It's worth mentioning that like if a massive corporate miner goes out of business, it probably has to do with fiat funding.
True.
They probably got a bunch of fiat VCs that printed money,
financing and investors,
printed money out of thin air to start that large miner, and now they go bust because the company wasn't started with real money to begin with. Like a lot of these horses probably don't have a lot of fake fiat VC money. So it's like, it's kind of a beautiful thing in my mind. Like all this fiat funded, print money out of nowhere to start a companies should just go away.
Yeah. It's crazy too that, you see like the consequences of the VC environment and how people think investing happens now when interest rates were actually something close to reality. Like back in the 80s, after you had like the huge spike in interest rates and it started to come down in some sort of measurable since VC shifted during 80s when we went from high, 20% interest rates to like 5 to 7, I think, in the early 90s or something, as things started to get like really, I would say, corrupted and fraudulent, because I mean, you just don't, it's price controls on interest rates, right? It's just bullshit. But VC literally went from the idea of funding and investing something in order to own it, to getting enough investment to get a price out of it and then sell. Like it literally shifted from what are we investing in to own, to how quickly can we turn it over. Like the entire market went to, how do we sell to Google? How do we get big enough that Apple buys us, or that it just, how do we get to that exit point? And then we can go just do it again. And it just became this extremely high turnover, like kind of like exponential speed. It was like, how do you add 6 zeros to this as quickly as possible, so that we can offload and be out of, we're not building anything that lasts. We don't really care long term. We're just trying to figure out how to sell it to somebody bigger than us.
Yeah.
And that shift literally happened over like 15 years. And then like that was VC. And now that's just VC. That's just how this shit works, is everybody just getting in for an exit.
Yep.
It's a mess. But the worse and worse it ends up for those guys, the better. Because that's the thing, is that I don't think any of these practices work in reality. They all only work in a fiat fake money environment. And the whole point is that Bitcoin brings back reality and punches everybody in the nuts for doing stupid shit and being irresponsible, which is what the whole thing is now. All the practices, all normal business as usual, is a disaster of fraudulence and irresponsibility. And so it is all just going to get kicked in the nuts. And the faster Bitcoin can just punish them all, the better.
I love this bear market, man. I love how I just love how things get wrecked and people get so angry, and like just truth comes out, and just
Steve's a masochist.
The nastiest, like, realist stuff comes out in the bear market. I honestly don't like bull markets, because everybody's happy and everything seems a little bit fake and gay, and like I'm just more of like let's look at
that was the last episode.
Let's just look at the dirty, real truth. Let's have hard conversations over spam. Let's have contentious soft forks. Let's have miners going out of business, because that's real life, man. That's real Bitcoin right there, I think.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely agree.
The problem with the bull markets is just the shitcoiners are happy.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, but also, like, it just brings out the worst in people, because everyone wishes they had more Bitcoin, and so the temptation is to cut corners and do silly things, and that's when people start pumping and dumping nonsense. That stuff is just less prone to happen in bear markets, because there isn't the naive retail enthusiast,
Right.
The wide-eyed idiot that shows up like, oh, someone made a lot of money in Bitcoin, I want to get into crypto, and they show up and there's a million people there trying to take advantage of them trying to increase their stash. In the bear market, all those people disappear, so there's no one to grift off of. So that's just what cleans it. It's the cleansing ritual. It's the fire that burns down the forest and creates fertile soil for the next season. But I mean, before we go down that rabbit hole, going back to mining, I don't know how exactly. I'm super jaded when it comes to miners, because the amount of ability they have to ignore the reality you're talking about, Guy, is it's the adage of the market can stay irrational longer than you can stay solvent. I haven't been able to believe how long miners will ignore math and carry on doing things that don't make any sense. Especially the biggest companies as well. That's where it gets the most confusing, because they have access to the cheapest credit, and everything they are concerned about is more to do with compliance and box ticking and bureaucracy and all that. And you can literally come to them with data, as we have been with Ocean, and being like, here's the numbers. There's the best FPPS pool. We paid 3.6% more than them. that it worked out as 6.7 Bitcoins per exahash more you made on Ocean than you would have on an FPPS pool, on the best FPPS pool. And when we had 101% luck, so it was almost that variable there that makes all the noise between the comparisons was almost completely controlled for. So you can adjust it for luck and make it 100% instead of 101, but you're still way up. So that just presenting that reality to people and being like, look, we're a proven product now. There is a lot of money you guys are losing by not switching, and just having it not land is so crazy to me, because then you have to invoke all these ideological differences. Like people are like, that's because you have you're anti-spam and all that stuff. I'm like, well, Ocean is the least controlling pool with regard to what you put in your template by design. Like the whole point is that you can come along and create horrible blocks if you want. The whole design was to make that your decision, not ours. But I thought miners weren't supposed to be ideological. That's what the spammers have been telling me for ages, that they don't care about Bitcoin's health or anything like that. They just want to make as much money as possible. So they'll include the stupidest transactions possible. And I'm like, well, apparently they are ideological. Like you can't have it both ways. Some of them are like, no, we need to fill blocks with spam. So our need to do that is so great that we will not partake in a pool where other miners might refuse to include spam in blocks. And we will earn less money adhering to this. So I'm like, well, if you're ideologically against the anti-spammers because you think we're censorship guys, then okay, I'll accept it. But then you have to accept that miners are ideological, which the main argument has been you can never ever appeal to miners to be altruistic and not attack the chain if it's profitable for them to do it, because they will only ever maximize profit. So I'm like, well, it doesn't, like, I hate there was always the ideological position, and there was always the I'm a dumb algorithm that will earn as much money as possible angle. And I'm like, both of them.
Homo economicus.
But anyway, all that is to say, hash rate rental. Brains came out with hash power a while ago, and that allows people to sell their hash rate on the open market and for plebs to bid on it. And plebs are the ones, if there are a group of people that don't like spam in Bitcoin, it's node running plebs and hodlers. The industry generally doesn't care about it. And the industry is quite captured by all of these spam people, like particularly the whole Bitcoin magazine area. That's all just completely implicated with ordinals and all this crap. So obviously they push a lot of disingenuous arguments in defense of it. But hash rate, there's like no hash rate for BIP 110, right? We've only found one block, but there's a lot of money out there that is happy to mine and buy the hash from these. I agree, miners are pretty not ideological, to be honest. But they're all just selling compute to a couple of giant miners called Foundry and Antpool and F2Pool and Via. They don't care what the block templates look like. They don't care what the blocks look like. They don't care where the money goes. They just want to get paid. But there's a lot of people out there with no hash rate that really do care. And now that you have the combo of Datum and Ocean and Start9 and Start Tunnel, all those things combine to the point where you can, and Brain's hash power market, all of those things combine where you can just buy a bunch of hash rate off of a miner. They sell it to you. They don't care what goes on. You point what they're doing at your Datum gateway and you make a bunch of BIP 110 templates. And you can trivially rent like 100 petahash. You just need the money. That's all. But it's there for rental. And then you'll find a block in a couple of weeks. So Marcellus,
crazy.
unhosted Marcellus has been the one pushing this. He's like, this is where hash rate ultimately ends up. So for the wider conversation here, like when does economic reality hit? When do miners stop mining in the red? At some point, I expect the future just to be, there are hashers out there doing what they do already. They don't care about Bitcoin. They care about electricity prices. They care about physical installations and setting up actual physical areas where they have all this energy consumption and all this internet connectivity and whatever they need. But they have nothing to do with Bitcoin. They're just compute. Same as the AI guys don't care what question you're asking in there that's getting relayed to their HPC facility. They're just running GPUs and crunching stuff. It doesn't matter whether you're making memes or pictures or writing essays or whatever. That's for the user. So the Bitcoin user is the guy running a node, the hodler, the guy that wants a lot of hash rate, who's making his own templates, but doesn't have, he isn't living in the middle of some oil field in South Dakota or something. He's like, he just gets someone else to do that. They're the hasher, but I'm the miner and I'm renting your hash and pointing it at my datum gateway, running on a little thing in my house with an exahash going through it. And I think we're going to start seeing that. I mean, it's already started somewhat. There's a couple of exahash going on Brains, right? But it's just so trivial to do it. And all the tech is there now where it's like, just let these miners, just let them be hashes. And everyone else. Yeah.
Exa, peta, zeta?
Yeah. No, sorry.
Yeah.
Peta, exa, zeta. So a peta is not much. Petahash is,
1,000 terahash.
Yeah, exactly.
Is that right?
Yeah. And then you have an exahash, which is one exahash is 1% of the network right now. A zetahash is the entire network. Sorry, 0.1% of the network.
0.1%. Yeah.
A zetahash is the entire network right now. It's pretty much dead on one zetahash.
I think it was somebody, I thought was it in the news last month? Or was this just randomly in one of our conversations or something? But somebody had, for like $75, rented a petahash of hash rate, maybe from the Brains thing. I'm not even sure. But then found their own block.
Mm-hmm.
And so for like $75, they mined for like a couple of days and found the block.
Yeah, it happens. But I mean, there's so many people doing that it adds up.
Oh, yeah, sure.
Not unlikely.
Sure. I mean, it's like all the solo miners and stuff. Like, eventually somebody's gonna find something. It's great. That's a heck of a lottery ticket, man.
Yeah, but I mean, the fact that Ocean exists changes it a lot. Because you don't need to take the risk.
Because you can point it at anything that you want.
If you wanted to rent an exahash right now, you can do it, and it's going to cost you a lot of money, but chances are you'll earn most of it back because you are actually just mining, but you get to decide what goes in the blockchain without having to become an actual physical miner, right? So, I mean, and to be honest, this isn't a big leap. It doesn't change anything that the hashers are doing. They move from FPPS to selling hash rate on the open market instead of to their pool. And there's a lot of enthusiastic ideological Bitcoin 10 people out there that will just pay more for your hash than an FPPS pool will. Like, I will gladly pay 2 or 3% more than those pools will, just so I can have your hash. And it's a legitimate thing as well. I didn't have to do it. You did. You went out and bought the ant miners. You plugged them in. You made them work. Now send all that to me, please, and I'll give you more than your FPPS pool. For me, that is the most rational market ever, and I see it kicking off majorly in the next few months for Bitcoin 10 supporters to get behind.
It could turn into just an arms race with kind of shitcoiners,
with the spammers?
with the spammers like doing the same thing.
I don't think so.
And,
it could, but
Yeah.
I don't think so. I don't
Okay.
think they have that kind of gumption, to be honest. I think they're all talk, and I just don't think spammers have the kind of resourcefulness and commitment that like hodlers with, someone with a lot of Bitcoin they bought many years ago that they can use to mine. I mean, there's other reasons you might want to mine with your Bitcoins, right? And cycle them, without going into any detail there. But I mean, like, they got the money, they had the discipline to hold on to it. Shitcoiners don't. Shitcoins are all about other people's money, not your own. And trying to separate them as quickly as possible, right?
Man, I really wish Stratum V2 would start, like I guess Brains, I think, is the only one that's implemented it, right?
It's dead. It's a complete waste of time. Datum does everything Stratum V2 needed to do anyway. The one exception here is that if you're renting hash and pointing it at your Datum gateway, that's all Stratum V1 traffic, which sucks, but there's no way around that unless you're literally renting hash from someone using Brains.
I thought Brains had Stratum V2. They just don't have it implemented so you can build your own block templates yet. Or
I mean,
at all. I don't know if
it's quite confusing because Stratum V2 is two things, but Brains has just a regular pool, There's nothing in there that supports template creation on the miner side or job declaration or any of that stuff that Stratum V2 has bolted on. It just supports the encrypted cons, which, to be honest, would be great for this. Because if I'm renting an exahash and I'm pointing at my datum gateway in my house, I would rather that not all be plain text, because that would suck. And it's also if Brains were to scam or something like that, or the miner didn't fulfill the order properly or something like that, they have plausible deniability because everything got transferred in plain text. So it could have been my ISP or some other man in the middle. Stratum V2 would fix all that. Obviously, once it hits your datum gateway and it goes between there and Ocean, that's all encrypted properly because datum's a modern protocol written properly. It's not like Stratum V1. But datum can support Stratum V2, but it's just not worth it because 99% of the hash rate you rent won't support Stratum V2. Brains OS does, but nothing else does. So Brains is not only selling the hash rate of people that are using their own operating system, they're selling anyone's hash rate, right? So
Gotcha. Okay.
And it would make the whole product more complicated as well if they had to figure out when selling and buying and matching the two things. Oh, maybe it could work. I don't know.
Any other mining updates? Oh wait, no, there was another one. This one was really cool. Well, first, difficulty has dropped again. Or I think it's about to. I can't remember. I haven't kept up with the difficulty adjustment. But we're about to get another dump in difficulty, which is cool. But the 2-block reorg from Foundry.
Juicy.
Forgot about that. Some juiciness. I think somebody did an interesting write-up.
OXB10C did, and Jason did a write-up because Jason's the back end for Ocean, right? So he has access to data that no one else in the network does because we get fed block templates by datum miners. So that's literally 1,000 Bitcoin nodes telling us
it was probably
we are building on top of this template, not that template.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, but what he was saying was that it was, well, actually, you might know better than I do. You want to break it down, Mechanic?
Yeah, I mean, it's a weird scenario, but it's not necessarily, it's exactly what this attack would look like, but it's not necessarily done intentionally. That's the problem, is it could have been done by accident. But the theory is that if a miner is big enough, they can not broadcast their blocks to the network and hopefully find another one when they build one. And then when a rival miner finds a block, you dump 2 blocks onto the network after that and erase their block. This is the theory. And the longer you do that, the more.
That's just a simple selfish mining attack.
Yeah. I don't really, if you can explain to me the point of doing that, I don't really see what the point of doing it is other than just creating chaos.
Well, I think it's that if you have 2 blocks going at the same time, and I think it's about the fact that if you want to keep building on top of yours, if yours isn't going to make it, if it isn't going to be the next one, you have the chance to do it in secret, so that when you basically drop it, you're building on yours, even though the rest of the network wouldn't be. So you can basically restore a block that you lost the race for. So it's like, okay, we lost this last one. How do we get it back? Well, let's just keep building on top of it and see if we can outpace the rest of the network quickly.
That's correct. Yeah.
So it's like, how do we take it? It's a risk because, you're betting against, you're betting that you'll beat essentially the rest of the network. But, if you're the largest of all of the separate pools, if you have 30 or 40%, that might actually be in the cards. That's why the quote unquote theoretical is that, like, if you have a third of the hash rate, it might actually make sense to do this in certain scenarios. But the idea is to get back a block that you lost.
Right, but the bigger worry here is that Foundry has a lot more hash than they are letting us know about, and they're intentionally keeping their hash kind of like 35-40% because they know that we'll freak out if they show us how much hash they actually
If they have
have.
55.
And like, then they can do something like this whenever they want, because they actually have much more than 40% or something.
Yeah. And this is exactly what a 51% attack would look like if that's actually what's happening, is that you wouldn't necessarily see it. It would just happen.
So what would be if they actually had a lot more hash than they were letting on, then it would just be sitting idle most of the time?
Well, no, it would be rerouted to other pools.
Yeah.
Oh,
It's just put under different names. And then,
oh, right. Yeah, I guess you could.
and then when they need it, it's back under their name.
Right.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure all pools do that, to be honest. And it's responsible for various unknown blocks that you see. Well, not all pools, the big ones. Like Antpool famously does it by proxying with the other pools. That's a little bit of a different mechanism, I guess. But no pool wants to appear huge because it freaks out the network.
Mm-hmm.
To get back to the specific instance here with the 2-block thing, though, Jason's report really kind of triggered my mind because it's, if you guys really do have 1,000 nodes data and you did not get, not a single one of those nodes got a competing chain tip for this event, then I just find it hard to believe that that first block was actually announced.
I don't.
Well,
I've seen it happen before. Network
it does.
weirdness,
Okay.
where they are mining on top of their own block, but for whatever reason, that block didn't get broadcast to the network. I've seen it happen. That's just networks being weird. So yeah, like we had a weird one. One ocean block was really weird. There was a network blip that meant the block, they didn't tell Ocean about the block, but they told the network about the block. So our whole payout system freaked out because it's like, wait, there's a block on the network paying a bunch of our miners that we were never told about. I don't know. It was
your blood, stupid.
Yeah, well, it was they blast the block to the network as they should, but they also upload it via the Datum protocol up to Ocean as well, so Tides can process it and make sure everyone got paid the right amount and all that. And that's a very, very intentionally fragile system because it wants to be like, if someone sneezes around it, it needs to shut itself down, and like it's a very, very carefully tuned, sensitive system. So when things like that happen to it, it shuts itself down and goes, nobody move. Like, so the whole thing was kind of weird. But I do know miners have
That's
network
funny.
transients and stuff like that. And also the one mistake everyone's making in the analysis is that they're discounting the modularity of a giant miner like Foundry. Foundry aren't sitting there with like one Bitcoin node and a bunch of Stratum servers on top of it. It's broken up all over the place. And half the time they aren't even in sync with themselves. And that's like doubly true for miners like
just
Mara
propagating
and stuff
within
like
their own network to then broadcast out may have failed.
So this is why occasionally there'll be a race condition scenario where like Foundry will be mining on top of an Antpool block when they found one earlier than the Antpool block, just because that section of their whole business was a different node running a different kind of thing. So these things happen, but I'm guessing that those blocks just weren't broadcast. The fact that there was two of them tells me their network was just balked. I think that was probably what happened. I don't think they would intentionally try and steal coins, the way, or just create disruption for Antpool and Via. And people are also going off the timestamps in the blocks, which is stupid because those are way out.
Those aren't reliable.
Like you don't generate work every second for an ant miner. You get a block template from a node, then you generate a template, then you generate work that you send via Stratum to all the ant miners, and you don't update that for like 30, 40 seconds because it's inefficient. You can't just keep blasting fresh work at ant miners because it's not an efficient way to do stuff.
You do the nonce. That's what it's for.
You give them fresh work when there's a new network block, and you want to update fairly often because the transaction fees get higher and higher and higher as it's been longer and longer since the last block. But you're not doing it like every 3 seconds or something. So you give them work with this timestamp and it goes to the miner. And I don't think that timestamp is updatable on the miner side. So it's part of the template, I believe. So the timestamp can say it was found at, 6:25 and 33 seconds. That work could have been created 20 seconds before that. And so the times, even if like the miner is rigorously, making sure all their clocks are in sync and all that, the timestamp in the block doesn't tell you when the work was created.
Makes sense.
Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah, there's so many factors, and I also feel like what would be the benefit of like dealing with the speculation or whatever, and then like purposefully, like what do they have to edit and change to like be able to purposely commit this attack, or to commit the attack to basically do selfish mining like this. I find it far more likely that it is just a mistake, that something just hiccuped.
Yeah, but that should just serve as a good enough warning for people to be like, Foundry is too big. Like
Yeah.
no other pool could accidentally wipe out 2 blocks. Like it would be, one in, that's like winning a lottery or something. It'd be extremely rare. But like Foundry can do it because someone tripped over an Ethernet cable in one of the facilities. like they shouldn't be in that position.
Yeah.
I love the white blood cell, like instant immune response of the Bitcoin system to the tiniest thing looking weird and
A
mining.
2-block reorg.
Dude, it is so
80 tweets later.
It's so comforting. It's like alarm bells ring everywhere for the tiniest thing. That was great.
I'm proud of the Bitcoins.
Yeah, dude. This one was really cool. So there was a research paper from Cambridge that Bitcoin remains resilient despite potential failures in global undersea cables. So basically, pulling through 11 years of peer-to-peer traffic data and 68 of verified historical cable fault events worldwide, and watching or analyzing how blocks propagate and how the Tor network is able to get around a lot of these gaps in the network, said that Bitcoin can stay in consensus and have full uptime globally, withstand the simultaneous loss of up to 92% of all undersea data cables.
TikTok, baby.
TikTok.
TikTok.
I thought that was dope. That was a really, really fascinating thing. I haven't actually read the research paper. I've just kind of pulled it up and skimmed some stuff. But it's just really, really, really cool. And also just shows the point, like the point of all of this, and why, like where consensus and security lies, like where that layer lies and the dynamics of that. Because this is exactly why you have small blocks. This is why you don't just like scale block size indefinitely, because if you've got 50 megabyte blocks and you're trying to move a gig, a day, that number is going to be very different. Like that number might be 30% or 20%. And I'm thinking like 92%. Could you get it up to 95? Like how do we make it even more resilient? And it was also really interesting because Jeff, you were actually here for this, and like when we were testing the first version of Pairdrop, just kind of like messing around with it. So we're talking to 2 guys who are in Iran who are contributing and like working with a bunch of the stuff that we're doing, and they talk that what's really interesting is that they have like a hugely unique situation because their internet keeps getting cut off, and their government regime is cutting it off, foreign powers are cutting it off, and even when it's on, they have basically installed software. What one of them, I think he referred to it as the black wall, which is Chinese software for their Great Firewall of China, basically. And they call it the black wall or whatever. But what it was doing is, essentially, like Pairdrop runs the peer-to-peer stuff, and the Pair Stack runs on direct like WebSocket connections. And they essentially, it seems like they have like some sort of a whitelist of just like you're allowed to connect to these big servers and these big entities. But if you're just making like a random web socket connection to another IP, it stops working. They basically are constantly scanning, and they shut it down every like 20 seconds or 30 seconds. So you cannot maintain a connection for any more time than that. I dropped a movie and with a pair drop link, and I was just like, all right, let's just test this and see what happens. And we're watching like the pair core thing, like where you can like see who you're connected to. You just see pub keys pop up, you know? And so I sent one to Jeff. I sent one to each of the 2 guys in Iran. And everybody was downloading. It's like, okay, I'm connected to, 5673. Who is this? And we're like going back and forth trying to figure out. And it's like, oh, well, it got kicked off. We got kicked off again. And we just basically were all jabbering in a 4-way chat about who's connected to who, and connections were just popping up and dying and popping up and dying while it was downloading. But in like 2 minutes, everybody had the movie, because it would just reestablish a new connection, even after just, 15 seconds or 20 seconds getting kicked off. But what was funny is that one part of the file would get to one of the guys in Iran, and then another part of the file would get to the other guy in Iran, and then part of it would get to Jeff, and then they would be able to connect a new connection to Jeff and get that part of the file. And so like just between it, as soon as you make the link, it's this, tiny little torrent network essentially. And literally in 2 minutes, everybody had the file, even across the Iran's black wall. And I thought that was fascinating. And I couldn't stop thinking about like Bitcoin and stuff after that. Is just this idea of like, how do you like explicitly network adversaries in an adversarial network situation, is that you can keep something working. You can still have the communication. But it was really, really, really cool. It was fun. We're getting there slowly but surely.
I'm excited.
Dude, me too.
I've got a topic if we're looking for another topic.
I got a bunch of news, but we're always looking for topics. Yeah.
I would just like to vote for Corey Clipson as the most improved Bitcoiner of the past year. I think Corey is just awesome now. He used to sketch me out. Now I think he's great. And can somebody explain the lawsuit with Tether?
Oh yeah, I can. I'll read the post.
Okay.
Let me. Oh crap! I lost it. I had it saved right here. Which chat were we in? You shared the link with me too.
I shared it in
We just
Signal,
had this. Oh, Signal. That's right.
Y'all know what I mean with Corey though. Remember, he used to be kind of douchey. Now he's awesome.
I mean,
I
he
never got
was
this one hate.
douchey.
I never got the Swan hate, really. I don't get why they were so hated.
I always thought I loved Corey's douchiness.
I mean, I didn't know him. I just hear him on podcasts, and he just sounded like a bull market, fiat kind of guy for a while. But
he was great during the whole the shitcoin explosion with what Luna and
oh yeah, he was calling out Celsius,
and
all that stuff way early, when everybody was certain that it was the best idea ever.
Yeah,
he was railing against them to the point that, remember, he had that interview with the guy who headed Celsius, I believe, basically just calling him a scammer to his face. The guy got so mad. And they like went at each other for like a while. And I think, I want to say the guy even like just dropped out of the conversation. I could be wrong about that. I mostly only saw clips and conversation pieces about it. But he was not happy. But then, it took like 4 months for him to be fully vindicated and entirely right about all of it.
Yeah, you're right.
But I'll read the post here. It says, so Lutnick on the hot seat yet again. This week, Swan Bitcoin filed an ex parte. Is it ex parte or ex part?
No idea.
That? Never spoken that out loud. I just realized. Application in the Southern District of New York seeking court authorization to subpoena Cantor Fitzgerald and his former CEO, U.S. Commerce Secretary Howard Lutnick, under 28 U.S. blah, blah. The discovery would support foreign proceedings against the Tether-appointed directors of Swan's joint mining venture, 2040 Energy. Tether chairman and controlling shareholder Giancarlo Devasini and Bitfinex CEO J.L. Vandervelde. According to the filing, mid-2024, a group of Swan's own employees, led by then CIO Raphael Zachary, and working with Tether's now CIO Zachary Lyons, secretly conspired with Tether to gut the joint venture. The filing states that Zachary's planning notes found on Swan's corporate servers laid out a coordinated mass resignation to be executed with, quote, legal cover from Tether, referencing Giancarlo side conversations and declaring that, quote, rain and hellfire needs to start. Zachary and Lyons are now both Tether-appointed directors at public company 21 Capital, majority owned and controlled by Tether and fronted by Jack Mallers. The filing states that on August 8th, 2024, 13 Swan employees resigned within hours, and thousands of confidential documents were downloaded from Swan's systems. According to Swan, Tether replaced Swan within days with Proton, a new entity run by the same defecting employees and contractors. In December 2024, the Tether-appointed directors approved a related party sale of 2040 Energy mining assets to a Tether subsidiary at what Swan alleges was a significant undervalue. The application targets Cantor and Lutnick because of their proximity to these events. According to the filing, in the weeks before the mass resignations, Devasini introduced Swan CEO Corey Clipston to Lutnick to discuss a planned Swan IPO. Swan subsequently shared confidential mining data and IPO materials with Cantor. The filing notes then after that mass resignation and asset diversion, Cantor broke off contact with Swan without explanation. Cantor subsequently served as an investment banker on the series of Tether-related transactions, according to the filing, including acting as placement agent for Tether's investment in Rumble and providing a SPAC for 21 Capital. Separately, the filing cites an independent Edison Group report noting that Tether sold Northern Data's mining subsidiary to Devasini directed entities at a 50% discount compared to precedent transactions as part of the precedent to sell Northern Data to Rumble. The filing also services Clipston's many contemporaneous notes and conversations with Devasini. According to those notes, Devasini told Clipston that Lutnick, then a private citizen, had claimed to have, quote, managed to kill every bill about stablecoins in Congress and was, quote, working full-time for Tether, end quote. Public UCC filing from October 25 shows Tether's collateral agent for all assets of Dynasty Trust, Lutnick Family Trust, that is the majority owner of Cantor. Bloomberg recently reported Dynasty Trust A borrowed a undisclosed sum from Tether to finance its acquisition of Lutnick's ownership stake. So, Lutnick appears to be working behind the scenes with Tether, according to this, working behind the scenes with Tether, started conversations with Swan while people within Swan were building their entire mining division, and they have set up an enormous amount, like they set up an entire project with tons of proprietary data. And then all at the same time, then while they were speaking with Cantor, all at the exact same time, Cantor and subsequently Lutnick, who is apparently still working behind the scenes, or at least claims to be, and has quotes claiming that he is the one basically behind these decisions, it looks like, pulled ship about Swan IPO and taking the confidential mining data. Everybody in the mining division resigned within hours after uncovering conversations of all of them planning to do this. They all took all of this data, all of this information, everything that they built, the entire mining project, and set up a new company randomly, and now is working directly with Tether. They basically hijacked the entire operation. They let Swan pay for it and set it up. They ripped it out from underneath them and then sold it to themselves at a 50% discount. And everybody went with them. Cantor and Lutnick, the entire group and part of the project. And now they're still moving forward with it. And they basically they just rug pulled Swan of everything. The financing side, the Swan IPO, the entire mining division, all of the employees and people who built this, and everything that they built, all the data and all the IPO materials. Like, that's
Wow.
pretty nuts. That's pretty nuts if this is what happened.
Dirty.
Dirty.
I could never live that kind of life where I was playing those games.
Seriously though. Like, how do you
like my first thought is that like this is the problem with being a giant company in fiat world
Yeah.
is that Tether probably wouldn't have survived, even being completely honest, like about their business and running everything conservatively. They probably wouldn't have survived all of the scrutiny they were getting if they hadn't agreed to like get in bed with somebody like fucking Ludnick or somebody.
Mm.
And so if you're a big enough target, they will come after you for something unless you play their game. And so it's like, I mean, you know, what in Atlas Shrugged, you're talking about, you know, things in Washington require, you know, expenses for things in Washington, you know, like you have to have your Washington guy, you know, right? And so
Yeah.
there's no way to win unless you stay small and kind of outside of the system. And, you know, like it's either you get big enough that you're trapped and you have to play their game, and then they can pin whatever they want on you, and, you know, in whatever scenario they create for you, you know, like, and so I don't know. I feel like the whole thing is it's just gross.
It's wild. But
I don't know what really to comment on it, and also maybe there's not really much for me to say, like, because some of the mining that was going on when Tether and Swan were still working together was a lot of it was on Ocean, and you know we knew all the people involved on both sides, and I really don't know what to make of it because I like Corey and I like Hafa. Rafa is, you know, Rafa Zaguri, the guy that's referenced there a bunch of times.
mhm,
As far as I know, those guys are both great people. So I have no
yeah.
idea what to think. Really, I have no idea how the whole thing, how it could have gone so south.
Yeah, was this like they hated working with them, and so they're like, "We're getting the hell out of here"? You know what I mean? Like, well, how was I'd be very curious to dig in more because it does seem like I mean, it's pretty wild. It's pretty wild even if there is some sort of a personal justification of just like, "We don't wanna do business with you anymore because we don't like this setup," or everybody was unhappy or something for some reason. But there's certainly a side of like, did we just get rug pulled? You know, was this like a plan to let us pay for the setup of all this stuff and then have it literally just ripped out of our hands, um, to you know, to go off and take it and you know get us to fund your venture without us actually being in it at all. So I don't know. I don't know. It's a mess though. That sounds that's a crazy thing to have happen, and I would love to hear somebody's justification for it. Um,
I really would not underestimate the power. Like at this point, I genuinely would not underestimate the possibility that the psychopaths that you're getting in bed with in Washington just do this to people. It could be that like they were screwing both sides somehow. Like, you know, like I just I don't know, man. Like like listening and watching to all this stuff around the Charlie Kirk thing and around like I literally had a dream last night about like if there was like a race of slave master type like people, and um it was like this child slave master saying, you know, like some sort of teenage slave master kind of creature saying like, if you like a good man, like a bad man will go out of his way to avoid seeing reality because he's running, like you could show him reality, you can show him the truth, he doesn't want to see it. But a good man, if he gets like a hint of the idea that the story he's been telling himself is wrong, he might change his behavior and you'll never be able to get him back. And then there's like this older character saying, nah, it's a game of time. Anybody, like, that's a short-term view of things. You can get anybody back by just with the right amount of time and the right amount of and the right story. And I truly think that, like, if you look at the narrative inside of narratives that they build, I truly think that there's just like these truly psychopathic people that are building narratives and counter narratives so that, like, one side, they can play one side against the other, and they just want to sow division and control everything. And if it increased, if decreasing the influence of one company, like, okay, so how much control over Swan Bitcoin did Lutnick have? If Lutnick already has Tether in his pocket somehow, then why wouldn't you want to erase the company that might be like a wild card in the you know in the
The
game?
agreement.
Yeah, the thing that you're playing. Like, it just there's no telling, man.
There's something I was posting about recently, actually, and I can't even remember what it was that sparked this. I was having a conversation with somebody, but that people have a tendency to forget to stress test their ideas or their narratives, and they will, especially when they don't trust someone. When like conspiracy theories is like a really good example. A lot of conspiracy theories are good examples, is because, like, we know from a ton of the leaks and uh, you know kind of like WikiLeaks being like a great example of like how the CIA operates and how intelligence agencies think about controlling narratives and populations, is that one of the things that they will do is that they will make a heavy presence in the antagonistic community and then push the wrong narrative. So, like, a good example is that, like, oh, everybody distrusts, like, they think 9/11 was an inside job and it was all like BS, and like somebody was up to some real nasty shit. And then they will go into the truther community or whatever, and they'll push, it was Thermite, it was Thermite, it was Thermite. And they'll like build this thing about like, oh, it was definitely this. And then people forget because they're so quick to be like, well, it's definitely not the official narrative. They will latch on to the first alternative narrative that they hear. And then they will get so viciously defensive about trying to make that narrative fit, because definitely the official story is a lie. But they use their certainty that they've been lied to, and they use that as their certainty about this alternative, which is just one possible explanation. And I see that happen so much, that because I know I've been lied to, this was definitely how it is. With flat earthers, I think, is a pretty decent example too, of like, hey, there's just this, it must be this because I know something is untrue somewhere else.
Flat Earth's a fun one because I went down that rabbit hole for a while. I really wanted to believe that there was something like that going on. And like anything else, the minute you go down that rabbit hole, there's loads of truth in it. There's loads of nonsense
So
out there
much
in
truth in so
mainstream
many
physics.
things.
But
Yeah.
at the same time, it's also, people always focus on one end of the corruption. They're like, well, flat earthers are grifters. They want to sell you like silly devices that don't do what they say they do and all that. I'm like, true, but they can only be convincing if they manage to find genuine holes in mainstream physics, and some of them manage to. Steve is going to have a heart attack in a minute if I'm like, you're
About
an actual
what?
physicist, right?
No, about
Steve
what?
is a flat earther. What are you talking about?
No, sorry, I got distracted.
No, I had fun in it because we live on an island, right?
This guy's watching YouTube. He's not even roundtabling.
We
No,
live on
I'm
an island, but
roundtabling,
there's
man.
like a 20-mile gap between us and stuff on the mainland. So we got a
Mhm.
mega hyper focus camera that could film like buildings 20 miles away, and we
Wow.
couldn't see like the bottom of them and stuff. They were, or we could see too much of them was the point. We're like, wait, I could see the whole building. The curve of the Earth's meant to like mean that like 20 meters of a building is cut off or something, which is a lot. That doesn't sound like a lot. But anyway, I mean, eventually I was like, maybe it's true. Maybe the Earth is actually flat. For a while, I was like, maybe it is, because we have a camera now that can show us stuff that should be hidden behind the curve of the Earth. But unfortunately, just the way light moves across like miles and miles of air of various temperatures makes it pretty unreliable. Like when you look above you, there's not much air between you and like where the air becomes really thin. But when you look 20 miles in front of you, there's so much air messing with the light that it becomes quite an unreliable test, unfortunately. So I thought my incredulity was just not overcome. I was like, no, as cynical as I am, I don't think that lie is actually maintainable. That they could tell the planet, that the world's a globe when it's really flat, because it's a hard claim to take seriously.
And one of the other big things is they say that like, light doesn't bend. Like they'll try to make that claim. And as somebody who has spent a lot of time with lenses and light and filming and has geeked out on that topic for a very long time, there's a very, very simple way to test this. Do you know what a mirage is? And do you know how it is produced? Like light bends. Light bends through a medium. It just does. And
that's provable with you put a pencil in a glass of water. And it looks like two different things.
Because you have a sharp cut in that medium. You have a high density, extremely low to extremely high density. You literally get, this is your pencil. It looks like this. And then there's and somebody posted one just the other day actually of someone being like the proof is that, you know, from a battleship or whatever, they say they have the capability of shooting a cruise missile that's 50 feet over the water from 100 miles away. And it should be, it's funny, in the video, he says that it should be over a mile underneath the horizon. That's not true. It should be 0.15, or excuse me, at 69 feet. It's like a little bit over the first gap. So it's like 0.2. And so it is like 600 feet or something like that, or should be 600 feet. And the light curvature does not actually account for that claim, is that they should be able to shoot something maybe at like 300 feet up, but the curvature would not be that much. And they're like, all like, I was reading this thread and they're like all going back and forth. And it's like, no, well, we know that they can do this. And it's gotta be a lie. It's gotta be straight line of sight. Lasers don't bend. And then they're arguing about the bending. And they're just like, did nobody stop to think maybe the Navy pumped their numbers a little bit? Like maybe they said they could do it at a cruise missile that's 50 feet up, 100 miles away. And it's actually like 50 miles away at 200 feet up. Maybe they said their dick was like 6.5 or 7 inches and it was actually 6.1, you know, like maybe they were just bullshitting. Like, cause the whole argument was about what the Navy said that the military said it could do. It's like, and that's proof. There's proof of flat Earth. Now there's plenty of fun conversations and little rabbit holes to go down in all those conspiracy theories. But I just thought the amount of energy that they put into not just thinking maybe the military was flexing nuts and their dick wasn't quite as big as they said was not in the conversation at all.
I think we just found a Bitcoin 10 block, boys.
No way.
Oh shit.
Bob?
Dude, the block?
Was it Bob again?
Yep, version bits end with a 10.
The epic blockness that happens on this show.
It does.
How often do we not just have like crazy block things happening on this show? Something special about something that's special about the hash universe.
You know, Bob is really
the hash
great,
ether
person. Like, you know, every once in a while we get these like adults that come into Bitcoin. You know what I mean? And it's like a breath of fresh air. And because, you know, we're all adults, but we're all just kind of fucktards. You know, we're talking about dick links and stuff. But like, you know, every few years you get somebody like Bob that just, oh God, it's so reassuring, so refreshing.
It's really funny watching him. Like, he's a really, really deeply committed Bitcoiner, and he has to
Yeah.
deal with like a bunch of ridiculous kids.
I really like Bob. Yeah.
He's done well. I always maintain that if you're like in Bitcoin for the right reasons, you make a ton of money. And if you're in it for the wrong reasons, you just run around and make nothing at all. So in that case, like Bob was the first guy to commit to mining on Ocean. He was one of the first to ever use Datum. I was trying to get that set up as quickly as possible. I think he was like number 2 or something. He wanted to be the first guy to find a Datum block. He missed that one, unfortunately. But he was the first guy to mine a BIP 110 block as well, making him also the first guy to mine a block the way he wanted, with signaling for a fork the way he wanted within a pooled context. There was like a similar thing to that with Slush before, where they allowed miners to have 2 different options, whether they wanted to signal or not. But this was the decision was made completely by him to put the version bits the way he wanted there. So, yeah, Bob gets a lot of, the first guy ever to do something belongs to him.
Yeah, he was also the first guy to get John Attack to, kind of come out in a long form interview style about the inner workings and politics and core, which is
Yeah.
Yeah, what was that
needed to
episode you
happen.
linked to? Was that Knut and
That was the second one.
Yeah, that was the second one, but Bob did it first, where it was like,
Okay.
oh, we knew
Wait,
this
what's
was
his show?
coming
What's
out.
Bob's show?
Well, Bob's show's called Old Man Yells. And
Old Man Yells.
And yeah, he doesn't do a lot of episodes, but when he does, they're really
Yeah.
high signal. So
Yeah,
it's
yeah,
really
they're
good
really good.
perspective.
Let
And
me
you're
get
right,
both of
yeah.
those episodes.
John has never done a podcast or anything like that before, but I think he's just been so excommunicated by Core now that he
Yeah.
doesn't really have any reason to try and play nice or like,
Mhm.
because every single one of them is like, when they're in that point of, should I make a drama tweet about something scandalous that happened? Well, I am coming up for a grant renewal in 3 months. Like, they always have that motivation there to be like, let's not be a squeaky wheel here. Let's not create problems. And I think he's just been so elbowed out. Like, no one will look at any pull requests he makes or like review anything he does or anything, because everything just dies in silence, right? They're not like, they don't decline stuff or reject it. Though, I mean, Dathan Ohm did make a pull request for BIP 110, the implementation of it, not the BIP. Into Core yesterday, and they closed it for being the bot closed it for being spam, and then they said we're going to leave it closed because the Twitter's going to brigade this and all that. But I mean, it's a real BIP. It's in the BIP repo. Here's an implementation of it. It's clearly not written by AI. It's definitely not spam. It definitely warranted discussion on the Bitcoin Core repo, in my opinion. It shouldn't have been like just unceremoniously tossed out. It's a very high quality piece of code, and it implements a BIP in the BIP repository. So it's not out of nowhere. It hasn't violated the process of all that crap, where you have to discuss it on the mailing list or delving Bitcoin before it's allowed to be a pull request on the Bitcoin repo. But yeah, that was kind of annoying.
I'll get the link for Knut and Luke.
Yeah, those are both
on
great.
Nika.
One thing about John
Roundtable,
Attack,
and then also Old Man Yells.
yeah, that I don't know how long it's been since you guys worked in like the corporate or government or like fiat world, but a lot of the stuff he said is going to hit home with a lot of these people that work in this space. Like me specifically, I got passed over for a leadership program at NASA because of my race. They needed to have like ethnic people in there. And then I got passed over for funding at my PhD program because of my race. And these are in writing from governments, like just in the corporate world for the last like 20 years. If you're a white male, chances that you have it in writing that you are not eligible for a certain advantage because of your race, that like is high, and it is so infuriating.
That's so wild, man.
I mean, it was kind of cool because it forced me to be like a weekend bartender during grad school, which was awesome. But
and then you bought a bar,
and then I bought a bar. So I mean, life works in funny ways. But Yeah, I mean, this was clearly happening in core. You know, I mean, he was. They were explicitly, you know, promoting people because of their identity over people who have like clearly better records, and you know, and that is so infuriating to so many people, and they can't even discuss it, but they're secretly angry for their whole life because of it. I think there's a lot of these people. Just my opinion.
I believe it.
I'm looking for this episode. I'm gonna have to find it later. I thought I'd get it really, really quick, but
When's the last time you guys had a
No.
corporate job? Like never? Like
Never.
we're talking about like
Jesus
decades?
Christ, dude.
You guys are so out of
Dude.
touch. You're so out of touch, man. I'm the only one in
Seriously,
touch.
though.
Does ocean
I
count?
did. I'm the only one in touch. I'm the only one that touches things.
I'm the people's person, man. I'm representing the people on this show.
Yeah, I mean, I work for Spectrum, but I was also ladder carrying and under house crawling and like that sort of stuff. So like I wasn't really. It was not very corporate environment. I don't think I've ever had a corporate job. I had like photography, worked at a photo studio, construction, media business.
Yeah.
Closest thing
Yeah,
I
no, I
ever
don't-
had to a corporate job
Worked
was
at a cafe for a while.
was corporate retail, like Lowe's, and that is the most ridiculous thing
That was
I've
hilarious.
ever experienced. I had like one of the guys that I mean, like, you know, I don't have a problem with weed, and like at the time I was smoking a lot of it, but it never crossed my mind to go to work high for some reason. Like why? Like that's just doesn't. That's not really. This is just like a weird buzzkill. But this guy that was working the aisle next to me would show up to work every day, like just blazed out of his mind, which I thought was kind of funny and whatever. And one day so I had like 5 bosses, and my bosses would kind of like argue over what they wanted done through me, which was really retarded. Like one of them would tell me they wanted something done this way, and then the other one would come and tell me I needed to do it this way. And so they wouldn't go talk to each other about these things. They were trying to get, you know, just influence me to do things one way or the other, which is exhausting.
Putting the uncomfort of actually addressing their
Yeah.
disagreement
Um,
through you.
And in general, like I don't have a problem. Anything that I do, I kind of like will just enjoy whatever I'm doing. And one of the things I had to do at the end of every day was like face all the items and you know, part of the process is I'm trying to keep everything organized during the day. Like people are just taking stuff off the shelf and sitting it somewhere, and you know, and so I'm trying to keep all the items in the right places and keep them. And so at the end of the day, they said, you know, face all the items. And so I just would go through and do this and didn't think anything about like how long it was taking or what you know, like how well I'm doing this for me. Like this is, if I'm going to do something, like I want it to look good. I want to be like happy with what I've done. And like, I literally had this guy come up to me one day, and I can understand people maybe thinking these things once in a while to themselves. I've never imagined somebody would say it out loud to another person. He said, "Hey man, you don't need to do this like the way you're doing it. You're making the rest of us look bad." And I'm like, "What?" He's like, "You're doing it too good." I'm like,
Do it a little shittier.
what the fuck? Get out of my face. Like I don't even know. And then the other thing was like I had the guy right above me was like screwing with my schedule because he thought I wanted his job or something. And I'm like, dude, I don't even want to be like nothing about this job.
I don't even want to be here, man.
Like this is it's just a temporary paycheck.
I'm just bored.
Yeah, and but he was like tried to make my schedule incompatible with my life. Like he would just do everything to make life hard for me because he didn't want me to be. He thought I was going to take his job. Like, what the fuck? Like I don't know. The corporate world. That is my only experience with the corporate world, but it's insane. Like these people are crazy. I just I just learned that I don't like people is basically what it is. Normies in general, I just hate them all. But
That's fair.
Yeah.
That makes sense. No, I feel like I'm shocked kind of like when I hear from other people is just how much of it is like how many people are basically policy enforcers. You know, like it's a set of rules and like responses and things that you're supposed to have, like how robotic so much of the corporate environment is that you're not allowed to, like, there's no autonomy. And it's not just like, oh, we're like trying to keep it together. It's that like people are trained to be robots. You know, like so many people are just like, well, this is what it's set, like this is what you're supposed to do. Like healthcare is such a great example, is the arguments of just trying to get someone to, like, during the COVID days. And, you know, Jeff, you remember the conversation we had when Dad was in the hospital, is just trying to get someone to like be human in front of you, to be like, no, stop saying the line that you're supposed to say and speak to me. Like, talk to me as a human being. Be like, what is your name? My name's Nancy. Like I'm literally trying to like break into like an actual person and be like, does this make sense to you? It's like, well, the policy is like, does this make sense to you? Speak to me like we are not in this building. Like, you know, like I'm literally trying to have a conversation with you. Stop roboting. Stop it. And just like, I've just wild the disconnect between reality some people get when they're in this authoritative position, because and it's not even their authority, it's that they think they are supposed to just be some sort of a funnel for the shit that somebody shoved in the back of their head so that it spits out of their mouth exactly the same way. And all thought is gone. There's no thought between the funnel going in and the funnel coming out at me.
The thing is they like the power, but they don't want to be responsible for anything. And so if they think
that's why your bosses all argued through you, is because they had the power to give you, to lay it off on you, but they don't actually want the responsibility.
Dude, I had to
dealing with the uncomfort.
I had to take something to Dad, and there was literally like a 300-pound nurse sitting at a table, like at the end of the hallway where the door is, like to like telling people they couldn't come in the building. And I can't remember what it was, but it was like stuff he needed, stuff that he needed. And they were like, well, you've been here once already today. And I was like, yeah, because I had to come find out that he needed this stuff, and now I got to bring it back. And like, well, we have like a 1 visitor a day policy or some crazy thing like that. And like, I can't remember, like I tried to like navigate around this woman's dumb stuff. And then finally I was like, she's 300 pounds. I was like, all right, chase me, bitch. And then I just walked past her and I mean, I think she called and told some other people that I was going to be in the room, but like literally nobody said anything after that. Like, so it was kind of fine, but,
That's fantastic.
But no, talking about, well, real quick though, talking about the corporate thing, when you were working for Spectrum, I remember you talking about like you were one of the only people that could fix some of the crazy problems that other techs would leave, but your points, your corporate score was so low because
what was your score, guy?
Well, it was like
my score wasn't that low. My score was mostly no. My corporate score.
He got fired from Spectrum.
Had a perfect customer service rating.
He had 100% in customer satisfaction, which none of the other techs, like would have. But his time, like, is a huge portion of his score was like based on the time, and because they kept he was the only one that could fix certain problems. They kept saddling him with these things that would
downbear.
that would take for like much longer. And so when he went to transfer, the guy in the new like section, that the regional manager that he was going to transfer to was like, I don't know if we want this guy. And his regional manager had to be like, no.
No, everybody was like, nah, guy's great.
Want
don't
him.
worry.
Yeah.
Everybody vouched for me, but it was just, I really think
But
that
the
was
fact that they
less-
had to vouch for you means that the system
the
is
problem was
messed
that they
up.
wanted everything to be a number.
Yeah.
And you can't qualitative a number, you can't. So like when they're, and that was a huge, we talked about it as techs quite often, actually. And they also wanted like very segmented like responsibilities. And there would be like these stupid things that, like just like having access to a thing that will allow you to ping the boxes or reset the router from the server side is something that you could do in 10 seconds. But we would have to call in to the other people who had the responsibility for this. And you have to talk through them, and you would sit on the phone. You think that you guys like go to call support and you have to wait a long time on the phone? Sometimes we would just sit in somebody's house and we would wait for 40 minutes to talk to a tech talk to our own support internal to get them to like ping a modem, because I can't force reset from like my side. I know exactly what needs to happen, and I could do it myself in 10 seconds if they just gave me like login access to do this thing. It's not like, oh, I have like customer, I don't know, like I have control over their account or something like that. It wasn't even that sort of a thing. But they're like, you have to, like, authority is here and authority is here. And so they just, and it would, I don't even know how much it cost them. I don't even know. I actually did. I went to my tech lead one time. I tallied up how much time I wasted waiting to get like access to these sorts of things. And and then did an average over a month in a little notebook. And I sat down with him and I was like, listen, this is how much you're blowing. And I know it's not his fault, but it was worth at least, I think my minimum guess was 3 entire techs worth in our division. Like 3 entire people on call were just being wasted, like waiting for authority. So I don't even know what that salary is. And like we had like 200 techs or whatever. So just crazy. Like that's a huge amount of waste in something that could be fixed with a login.
Hey, can we talk about alternative node implementations for a second? I feel like
so many people were getting given shit to production ready.
We've been wondering about this day for decades. I mean, for like 15 years, guys, and like it's here. Don't you think?
Everybody's saying it's a nothing burger. It's a nothing. Nobody's ever going to do it, or they're asking for donations. And actually, it was kind of a funny post comparing Bitcoin.
I think one of John Attack's really good points in his interviews, and Mechanic can probably verify this or not, is that it's actually not a problem getting funding for devs. It's a problem getting devs that want that career.
I don't know.
You don't know? Okay.
Well, if we now have competing implementations, does this mean that DEI officially killed
Well,
core?
there's no implementation yet.
Yeah, it's
a nonprofit right now.
Yeah, it's.
I mean, we do have a competing implementation. That's not.
Yes.
Well,
we're gonna have so many with Claude.
Dude.
I'm about to make one. I'm about to make a UTX Oracle node just for myself.
Dude, no. This was really cool. Who was this? Oh, I did not put this down on the list. Somebody messaged me. I was talking to somebody who was in one of the Bitcoin and AI circles, but somebody has been quietly working on Lightning. If anybody knows who this is, or if whoever it is listening to this, please reach out, because I would love to talk about this. Somebody has quietly made a open source model, a fork of a different model, I believe, that is just designed for engineering on Lightning, for coding Lightning apps.
I believe it. It's so easy now.
And like I immediately just like to think about like really going hard, like going super hard into a total and complete Bitcoin Lightning coding model where the weights are all about like intelligent engineering, and like we're very, very, I mean, not even very close to that. We're 100% in the realm of this could totally happen right now. It's
Yep.
just about spending the energy to actually get it into production.
Yeah.
And I just thought that was so cool, and I really wanted to have a conversation and episode about it, and I forgot. I totally forgot until just this moment.
What do you think, Mechanic? We in a new world?
Of implementation diversity?
Yep.
I don't know. This is one of those ones where I'm kind of mired in stuff behind the scenes, and I'm just like really, I have to be careful what I say and what I don't say. I mean, I don't personally feel like it's all that helpful at the moment, specifically. But I mean, there's a lot of, I didn't expect Core and all like AJ Towns and Shinobi and like, the usual people that are on that side of this whole thing to be really annoyed and angered by it, because nothing about it really like, it's all the language is like the worst you could say about it is, this probably won't really result in much. That's it. Like, that's the worst thing, because it's not a bad thing to have another like fork of Core be implemented by some known developers in the space and for funding to be more. It's literally just slightly more decentralized to have this. So I
Mhm.
can't understand why anyone would like attack that.
I'll tell you
Um,
why. Because they've put it on the spam debate, and they've gotten defensive about anything that appears to be poo-poo on Core.
Well, but that's a mistake.
And that's what I think most people, most of them see this as.
But
is
that's a
that
mistake
this
from
is-
their perspective. This is
No, I'm
you're
not saying
the
it.
Republican
I'm not saying it's a
Party.
mistake or not. I do agree that that's a total mistake. I don't see how there's anything negative about this at all, except from the standpoint of like if somebody donates and nothing of success comes from this. But like that's doing any projects of any consequence means that 95% of what you do is going to be a failure. Like 95% of all things are failures. It's the purpose is to find the 5 things that actually are worth something. So I agree with you in that sense. Is I don't really see how you could see this as a bad thing unless you've put a personal stake into you've projected some totally different conversation onto this, and you can't separate your feelings about that in just making a simple assessment as to whether or not this is a bit like, sure, this is cool. Like I don't know, the write up is pretty neat. That bunch of good points. I think that's a great idea, especially considering the fact that like Knots is so reliant on Luke, and Luke is a bit of a wild card, you know. And I don't think I remember seeing anything about this being like they were going to support BIP 110 or that they were going to do anything about spam. Like it had nothing to do with that. But that's what this got pigeonholed into, I feel like.
Yeah, it's because at the moment Core are the greatest guys ever, and anything that doesn't toe that line is
It's a
unacceptable.
lot of heel digging. A lot of heel digging that feels completely unnecessary.
Yeah, that was silly. But I mean, from my perspective, I'm all about BIP 110. And I don't think anything other than that is really going to help with settling things down at the moment. Either BIP 110 needs to die or it needs to get adopted and just become dominant. Those are the two options right now. Otherwise, all that happens in August is chaos. And I don't know who's going to win that game of chicken. But obviously I know what side I'm on, and you all know what side I'm on. But to me, the fact that I don't think they mentioned anything about it. They did say it would be a fork of Core, if I recall, but they didn't say it would be, which by the way made it realistic. If it was a ground up re-implementation, I'd be like, call me in 5 years. But it's not. It's a fork of Core. So whether or not it has the BIP 110 logic merged in it, I see them not having alluded to it in any way. But also Knots doesn't have that, right? So if their implementation had BIP 110, but Knots didn't, that would be very interesting. That could be a way for them to, because you now have 3 options, and I don't know exactly, like most of the people on the not side were celebrating the announcement. Most of the people on the core side were attacking it. And that's kind of, my instinct went the other way. I found that a third implementation right now, another fork of core, doesn't really do that much, because that's what the Bitcoin 10 client already kind of is, and that's self-funded. And that core, frankly, I expected them to be like, yeah, like this is like SegWit 2x and Bcash. Like they've just divided the big blocker community into two parts. So I was like, but that didn't work. So basically everyone on our side didn't attack it or feel threatened by it. And everyone on the core side that should have celebrated it and high-fived each other, attacked it. So my intuition about how people respond to these things is obviously way off base. But yeah, I think more to the point, Luke is putting, like, there are lots of consistent devs working on knots now that want funding, and we've been talking about sorting this out for a long time. And we basically have all that together now. It just hasn't been announced yet. So look for something in that regard over the next few days. Probably not over the weekend.
I was thinking about Luke and like the next release of Knots, not Datham's Knots, but the actual main. And I could see Luke like weirdly not putting BIP 110 as default in the next version of Knobs because of some super altruistic principled reasons of his. Do you know?
If he's going to put it into mainstream knots?
Yeah, I like default.
If it goes in, then it's the only option. I know he was dead against making it like a configurable thing where
A
it's like
switch.
you
Okay.
can run BIP
Yeah.
110 if you like, or not run BIP 110 if you like. I know he was like, I would never not. If it's going in, then it needs to be the only option, because if it's in and the
Interesting.
user has an option to fall out of consensus, then that's just broken. Like, why would you ever release that?
Okay.
I think he's just genuinely looking to make sure there's enough genuine support for it, because a fork can only a dev putting a soft fork into their client, willy nilly is not that's just going to fail unless it's adequately
Mhm.
supported.
Yeah.
So and there's no faking that. Like, you can pump up numbers and everyone knows that those numbers are fake, and you can, I don't think anyone wants to delude ourselves on the Bitcoin 10 side. Like, we went up pretty quick. We hit around 9 or 10% of nodes, and I don't know what the ratio is of believable or not. Couple of blocks now, but that's one guy, an ocean guy. We know who he is. I don't know. I don't know when it reaches because no one wants to go first, right? And after a while, it starts to become a thing that's quite acceptable to do. I don't know exactly at what point it becomes acceptable to merge into knots.
Well, I mean, I think you're going to have a lot of people getting new machines when their 1 terabyte drives fill up this summer, and I think it's a lot of them are just going to default to whatever the latest knots is. And I mean, maybe node signaling doesn't matter, but I think it does. I think that it's a conversation starter.
Yeah,
At least.
I think we'll get there soon. I think knots will probably have 110 in it before the end of April.
That'd be cool. I'm so curious. I mean, all this stuff's such an experiment to me.
Yeah.
What does BIP 110 default and knots do to signaling numbers? It's like we don't get experiments like that very often. Like that's
Yeah.
really cool.
I can't believe that people aren't even like, even if you're against it, I can't believe you're not like interested.
There's so many things to learn. Yeah.
This is really interesting. Like Bcash was a straight up fork. And then there was the user activated soft fork and all that stuff. And all of that was like all the viciousness and stuff aside, it was so interesting. Like it was super, super interesting. And I loved digging into all of it. And like part of me was like, angry just because of like the incessant conversation and I get so impatient or just like sick of people, making some claim or some narrative or whatever. but like I still never really tried to like held any ill will toward people. In fact, I remember the night that Bcash split off, and there was like like huge market swings back and forth for both of them. I was like openly like I was in the forums being like, this is actually pretty dope. We have like a real world experiment of this. Like I was a little bit excited about it just because it's the first time that there had been a real division and like we're going to test our theory and you're going to test yours. This is how the consensus break lays out and you know all of this stuff. I was really fascinated with it. And that's why I even since then I had tried at multiple times and end up in the same place with Roger Ver, and he came in and like joined in with Keat, and I thought he was gonna like be on about like P2P tech and stuff again. And I was like, well shit, let's do this. Like let's get those guys back and do peer-to-peer tech again and like build stuff. And he immediately, he's like 10 years later, or whatever the hell it is. I don't know. Feels like 2 decades. He just laid into it. Bitcoin isn't the real Bitcoin. It's Bitcoin Cash. You all suck and all this. And I was like, seriously? But anyway.
It was very interesting, and I was wrong about so much about how it works. That's why I'm like blown away by this hash rate rental thing, because everyone's just like, miners aren't going to do it. You need some hash rate, like asymmetric advantage ignored. You need like 10% of miners to be mining BIP110 for the other 90% to get scared and flip over also. You can't have 0%. And I'm like, okay, well, we have no idea what's going to happen with that. But now like unhosted Marsalis is like, dude, Datum exists. Miners don't care. Just buy their hash rate and mine BIP110 blocks. You like if you wanted to buy all of the world's hash rate, it's 18 Bitcoins an hour. That's all of it. That's the entire Zeta hash. So once you have a few thousand plebs, like hodlers with quite a lot of money that are willing to spend maybe a collective 1 Bitcoin an hour or something like that, you're there. You have enough hash rate at that point for it to be a thing, and the miners don't care. So I'm like, is that going to be the lesson of this cycle? That like miners are really just hashes now. Like you need to mine at home. And that's always been the theory, like the end game of Bitcoin mining around like, there are, you know, we can either cancel halvings or we can add 1 billion use cases, whatever it is we need to do to keep blocks small, whatever our rationalization is for making people mine and keeping the difficulty high. Like, what if it's just Bitcoiners mining and they don't care if they lose a bit because they just want to do so for the health of their stash? Like, I know the motivation is real because I have it. I will gladly rent hash rate and mine with it. And I don't care if I come out with 93% of what it is I started with or something like that. I found some blocks. It's amazing. And in the long run, that might eventually become motivating. Mining is always slightly less than profitable. Always anyway, by design. Like the minute it's profitable, difficulty goes up and most people are unprofitable again. That's just the nature of mining. So it's always going to be kind of weird. Like, and if it ever becomes profitable,
I
more
will
people
never
start,
not.
and then, what's that?
I was just saying I will never not have a Bitcoin heater.
Yeah,
You know,
I know.
like it will just always be that.
Yeah.
Like no matter how much, and I'll probably upgrade it for no reason. I want a faster heater. You know,
The point is, like, there's some significant hash rate though. Like home heating, and as much as I love the BitAxe movement and the heat punk movement, all that stuff, none of it really amounts to much hash rate. There are like serious hashes out there that are willing to just rent it and be like, okay, just like 99% of the mining on the network, all the miners except for Mara and the people on Ocean are happy just pointing hash at some Stratum server and saying, you figure it out and pay me for my compute. And so that being the existing model tells me that if plebs figure that out and go, all right, send me an exahash for the next 5 hours, I want to try and find a block. I'll give you 3% more than you get on an FPPS pool. And if you find a block, you made a ton of money, but you're using Ocean as a reward split coordinator. So you get paid a decent amount regardless. So even if you don't find a block, you're still in the share window and another miner finds a block and gives you your appropriate split. So you probably get most of it back. you have a 66% chance of coming out ahead, assuming you're operating at 0%, and you have a 33% chance of losing money, because that's how Poisson distributions work. So 66% of the time, it works every time.
Oh shit. Well, I've actually got a lot of. There's a number of other like interesting news items. I want to just point out the so production ready. I'll have the blog post about that one if anybody wants to read it. In fact, I might read it on the show. But Breeze, the Breeze SDK for anybody building, especially if you're like vibe coding some stuff right now, they just have a feature now where you can create your keys with passkey. So they have login with Apple in their SDK now for creating a Bitcoin wallet, which is super dope. Then there is a Stealth as a tool for privacy auditing for your own Bitcoin wallet analysis. Then somebody else linked to me Am I Exposed, which is a client-side Bitcoin privacy scanner to analyze your transaction data so that you can basically just have better privacy. And I think in the world of like agents and like all of these tools, it's going to be really interesting to see when like you can have your agent handle a lot of it. Well, if you're using Claude, then you're not doing anything for Bitcoin privacy because Claude has all of your data. But use Quinn or whatever to actually analyze and give you assessments on like what to do or how to pick UTXOs or something like that. And as you have tools for auditing and understanding how to use these things, being able to use an agent to like manage or deal with stuff like that is just, I'm very, very interested in this. And then Clarkian built PairCal, which is right now it's just a decentralized calendar app, and it is right now on Android. I have not gotten to test it yet, but I saved it and I was going to give the link so that other people could test it. And I want to start playing around with it. I just haven't had time. Been so drowning in Pair all the things. And PairDrop is actually available too. You can get the early version of that. There's a couple of dead buttons just because I hadn't added the things to them yet, but it does its job. I use it every day. So just for tools and new launches, those are some things to check out, and we'll have links down in the show notes. Now, Steve, sorry I interrupted you.
Oh no. I mean, I was in a random thought when we were just talking about Luke and the BIP 110 stuff. I had kind of a step back thought sometime last week where I was thinking about Jameson's quote where he was like, consider I am an attacker. Like, what are you going to do about it? And when I think about it, I was like, well, maybe this is kind of awesome because even though I don't really like a lot of the things Jameson says, I do think that he wants Bitcoin to succeed. Like, I don't think he's like
100%.
out to kill it. And like the same with Luke. I don't see Luke as, I don't agree with everything Luke said. Please take the 2-year time bomb out of knots. Jeez. But like, Luke is also a person who genuinely wants.
I forget that's there. That's
dude, I'll never keep my cold storage on a node newer than 2 years ever. I mean, we have a clear example of why you should never do this.
That's configurable, right?
Yeah, I know it is, but it's just crazy as default. But anyway, but so we have like, Jameson, like, what are you going to do to stop me? Consider I'm an attacker stress test. And then we have like Luke, like contentious soft fork stress test. And these are like stress tests that are like within the bounds of the anti-fragile system. It's like in-house testing in a way. And I just think about how awesome that is,
Steve loves when people fight.
Oh God, I love, dude. Why do you think I bought a bar, man? I am stroking fires every day. Did you hear what this person said? Did you hear what they said?
Did you down at the end of the table? They were talking about this big fat woman and how disgusting she was. I'm like 80% sure it was your mom they were talking about.
Having a stack, like not being connected, being off the grid gives you this confidence that, no fight's going to rock your boat. So it's fine. It's great. I'm not going to get canceled. I'm uncancelable. Am I?
Cancel me. I'll just go back to my room. I don't understand.
Boys, I think I got to jump.
Yeah.
It's been fun.
It's time to roll it up.
Yeah. I will defend the time bomb, by the way, actually. The
Oh
time bomb,
God.
yeah, because it's all the alternatives suck as well. I'm not saying it's a good idea, but all the alternatives are also bad.
All right. It does solve the 2106 problem. I'll give you that. It solves the 2106 problem. If you can't run 2-year-old nodes, then
Yeah.
Gotcha.
we're not gonna have a hard fork. So
And I was surprised by it. Like, I thought this is like people running. It's like forced updates is how you do it in closed source Windows whatever land. That sucks. No one accepts that. Users just
wait a second.
What?
I just found out a way to get me to run BIP 110. Fix the 2106 bug.
Datham, and the core version of BIP 110 say it's also 2106 compatible. You fixed the major issues before core did. Just do little stuff like that, man.
Well, that would make it a
100%.
hard fork, unfortunately.
No, you can be compatible until year 2106. It just keeps going.
You just have a flag day or whatever.
It doesn't start on August. The flag day is 2105.
Yeah, but it's ready. It's going to keep going, and all the other nodes are going to stop.
I think we're going to get there.
Yeah.
Speaking of that, let's final thoughts and shout out to the crowds. Mechanic, what you got?
Buy some hash rate and point it. It sounds self-serving, but Ocean is the only pool that lets you do it. So I guess I'll be vague. Buy some hash rate, mine BIP 110 blocks using Datum, and point them at any pool that supports the Datum protocol. Yeah, have fun. Mine some BIP 110 blocks. I guarantee you'll never feel the same. Mining any block
You'll never
is going to change your life.
Change your life.
Yeah. If you mine, I'm waiting for that day that a Bitcoin mechanic block.
Doctors hate this one trick.
Yeah. It's better than any antidepressant I've ever heard of. Though actually, most miners in a pool hate it when they find a block because they wish they'd lotto mined it instead of being on a pool. So that's strange. I get weird messages when like a guy with, 100 terahash mines a block. And everyone's like, pleb block, wow, amazing. This guy with only this much hash rate finds a block. And he has an existential crisis. Even though the maths doesn't work that way, because if you'd have been mining with different settings, you wouldn't have been guaranteed to find the same block. It would have just been random chance. But they just believe I could have mined a lotto block and given myself 3.125 Bitcoin. They just torture themselves with it. Anyway, yeah. Peace and blessings. Great to see you all. I'll jump off.
Hell yeah, man.
All right, see you, mechanic.
Later, boss. Jeff, final thoughts. What you got, boss?
I don't know, man. I feel like, I don't know, I keep thinking about I really think it's entirely plausible that like Corey is just like too much of an anarcho-capitalist, and so they just had to find some way to like get rid of his company. And like I was just thinking about like all of the things that we've seen. Like if you go back and look at like when 3D printing first like kind of exploded, there were 2 or 3 companies that were like going to be building printers, and they funneled a whole bunch of political money into like, I can't remember what the name of the company is now, but into one of the main companies, and they just bought up like a bunch of competitors because they want everybody under one roof that they already have political already have political control over. So
yeah, there's a ton of them that won't. You can't put you can't put this like at the printer level.
It's like they've tried to put DRM. Yeah.
You can't put a design for a 3D printed gun in them and actually print it. Yeah.
Yeah.
And with all that fiat money, that's how you do it. That's how you do it. It all goes back to fiat, man. Every time. Now that's an interesting thought. I don't know. I tend to think it's just a bunch of opportunists.
Listen, I know nothing about the situation really. I'm just saying like from a 1,000-foot view.
Yeah, I don't know anything about it either, really.
If what Corey's saying is legit, it could totally like, because I tend to think, I mean, maybe I'm too soft on Tether, but I tend to think that given Tether's history and Paolo and the things he's funding and whatever, that he is generally a decent actor
like
in this
Paolo,
space.
man.
Yeah, like so.
Yeah.
So what are the other possibilities? I'm gonna be generous to the people that I know, like, and the other possibilities are that because of the positions they're in, they're forced to deal with these horrible people who are gonna try and pull strings and control things, like, no matter what, and they're gonna try and
Yeah.
screw people just to start fights. I mean, like,
Man, I really just kind of think, and we'll see how, if pair drive actually ever becomes a thing. I'm certainly intending it for it to, and I'm just going to keep at it until it does. But if we ever get to that point, I just don't know. Like I feel like getting like VC investment is just like doing a deal with the devil. It's just like putting your own handcuffs on, and like you don't have control anymore. You don't, unless you set it up at the beginning. There might be like a Elon Musk's example of just like, don't set out the very gate is that you're not going to control what I say or how I say it, by being explicitly contentious. Like, say the second you're in the environment or the money comes in or whatever it is, go ahead and say the thing that is going to freak people out or piss them off on purpose to weed them back out. If, maybe like that's the strategy, is just like understand, it's like, I'm just not going to play the game this way, but I'd love some investment.
I think something like pair drive, like your goal would be to chase grants or something with no strings attached at the beginning, and everything else just the goal is that the thing doesn't.
There's a lot of great people and companies giving grants for that sort of thing, and I think we don't have to have much funding to get along.
I was about to say the design is set up so that you don't need a whole bunch of infrastructure. So that's really the great thing about it.
We'll see. Just keep working, head down. Thank you, Steve.
Oh, yeah, not much. Just as you're vibe coding Bitcoin apps out there, like, Bitcoin data is not like website data. Like, if you have a problem reading data from blocks, like that's going to cause a serious problem. And just make multiple independent checks when you first read that data from your node. It's very easy to do, and it's going to save you a lot of headaches, like life-changing headaches later on. If you got a bug in your RPC requests and you think you're getting good data and you're not, that's gonna be a bad life later on. So please, I know a lot of people are gonna be doing this, so do a lot of checks early, test early.
Good vibe coding rules. Any bugs or anything you want to address? Or?
No, I mean, actually, I didn't even know the bugs it found. I was like, okay, do this with RPC. And then I was like, all right. Like,
I was fishing for 2106.
Yeah, 2106, guys. It's
fix it. That is the siren song of this show.
How many times have you heard people talk about what's it called? Tail emissions, and like what happens in the year 2144? Everyone's like, yep. It's, what? That's the year 2144, but we need to dedicate our brain space to this now. We need to think about this now and talk about solutions because it's worth talking about now. And then you're like, what about Bitcoin's hard coded to die like 30 years before that? They're like, why are you talking about that now? They're like, we figured that out later, man. It's so far away. Let's get back to 2144.
Let's get back to the urgent issues.
Yeah.
Oh shit!
Fucking tail emissions.
All right.
Don't even get me started. We'll do that on the next roundtable.
All right. See y'all later.
Later, guys.
Bye.
And that'll wrap us up. Don't forget to check out. I'll try to have the links to all the things that I mentioned in the show, as well as the TFTC episode we talked about, and the episode with Knutz von Holm and Luke, with John Attack. And I'll try to make sure my AI catches all the other things that I said I would link to. Hit me up if I did miss any, or my AI missed any of the ones that I mentioned. And don't forget to check out my affiliates and the links and discounts that I have right down in the show notes. Also, I hope to see a bunch of you guys at BitBlock Boom. That is on April 9th. If you haven't gotten tickets yet, the price will go up just a little bit here. Or the final price increase will happen in like a day or two. So actually, it might be happening on the day this is released, so you might miss it. But check it out if you haven't. Sorry if I'm totally off base. But hope to see you guys there, and I hope to have a lot of really cool stuff to share in my talk and with the audience there, to hang out with you guys and build with you guys and talk Bitcoin. I will be there. Dallas, Fort Worth, BitBlock Boom. That'll do it. I will catch you guys on the next episode. Thank you for joining and listening to Guy's Roundtable, and I will see you next time. I am Guy Swan, and this has been Our Two Sats.